Hey, welcome back to my channel. I'm Karina, living L6S, where I live, breathe, do continuous improvement. Right now we're on our Powerplant study test guide, and we're on part 6. Our next section is ignition and starting systems. Question: the magnetic circuit of a magneto consists of a permanent multi-pole rotating magnet. The core is made of, answer, soft iron. Question: how is the strength of a magnetomagnet checked? Answer: hold the 2 points open and check the output of the primary coil with an AC ammeter while operating the magneto at a specific speed. Question: the E gap, E as in echo, the E gap angle is usually defined as the number of degrees between the neutral position of the rotating magnet and the what position? Answer: the position of where the contact points open. Note, the definition of E-gap angle is the number of degrees beyond the neutral position of the rotating magnet at which the breaker contact point is open. It is at this point that the flux change is the greatest and the primary current is the greatest. Question: the greatest density of flux lines in the magnetic circuit of a rotating magnet type magneto occurs when the magnet is in what position? Answer: full alignment with the field shoes faces. Question: magneto breaker point opening relative to the position of the rotating magnet and distributor rotor, internal timing, can be set most accurately by, answer, during assembly of the magneto before installation of the engine. Question: why are high tension ignition cables frequently routed from the distributors to the spark plugs in flexible metallic conduits? Answer: to reduce the effect of the high frequency electromagnetic waves emanating during operation. Question: what will be the results of increasing the gap of the breaker points in a magneto? Answer: advance the spark and decrease its intensity. Question: what is the purpose of a safety gap in some magnetos? Answer: to discharge the secondary coil's voltage if an open occurs in the secondary circuit. Note, safety gaps are the secondary circuit of a magneto to protect the insulation of the secondary coil. If there's an open in the secondary circuit, such as could be caused by lead being left off a spark plug, the voltage will build up high enough to cause a spark to jump across or arc the safety gap rather than allowing the voltage to rise high enough to damage the secondary coil insulation. Question: when timing a magneto internally, the alignment of the timing marks indicates that the what? Answer: the magnets are in the E gap position. Question: when internally timing a magneto, the breaker points begin to open when the rotating magnet is what? Answer: when it's a few degrees past the neutral position. This is a trick question. This is when a few degrees past the neutral position. And that's when the breaker point begins to open. Question: magneto-timing drift is caused by erosion of the breaker points and answer, wear of the cam followers. This is a trick question. Wear of the cam followers. Note, two things that cause the timing of a magneto to drift are erosion of the breaker points and the wear of the cam followers. Erosion of the breaker points cause the timing to drift early, and wear of the cam followers cause it to drift late. Question: what is the electrical location of a primary capacitor in a high tension magneto? Answer: in parallel with the breaker points. In parallel. Question: in a high tension ignition system, the current in the magneto secondary winding is, answer, induced when the primary circuit is interrupted. Yes, yes. Yes, dear? I'm filming. Yeah, I'm filming. You want to be here with me? You want to be here with me? No? Okay, that's fine. Hi. You smell like letterbox. You smell like letterbox. Yes, you do. Question: when a shower of sparks ignition system is activated at an engine start, a spark plug fires what? Answer, or should I say when? Answer, only while both the retarded and the advanced breaker points are open. Note, the low voltage pulsating DC from the starting vibrator is directed into the primary winding when the ignition starter switch is placed in the start position. When both sets of points are closed, the pulsating DC flows to the ground through the points and nothing happens. When the normal or run points open, the current continues to flow to the ground through the retard points and still nothing happens. But when the retard points open, current can flow to the ground only through the primary windings, and this is induced as high voltage into the secondary winding, which produces a continuous spark across the spark plug electrodes as long as both sets of points are open. Question: what is the radial location of the two north poles of a 4-pole rotating magnet in a high tension magneto? Answer, 180 degrees apart. Note, every other pole is opposite and the flux reverses its direction every 90 degrees of magnetic rotation. Question: magneto pole shoes are generally made of what? Answer, laminations of high-grade soft iron. Question: capacitance after firing in most modern spark plugs is reduced by the use of what? Answer, a built-in resistor in each plug. Question: what components make up the magnetic system of a magneto? This is a very important concept you need to know. Answer, rotating magnet, the pole shoes, the pole shoe extensions, and the coil core. Question: in an aircraft ignition system, one of the functions of the capacitor is to what? Answer, facilitate a more rapid collapse of the magnetic field in the primary coil. Question: in an aircraft ignition system, one of the functions of the capacitor is to, answer, facilitate a more rapid collapse of the magnetic field in the primary coil. Note, when the breaker points in the primary circuit of a magneto begin to open, the resistance of the circuit begins to increase. At the same time, the primary current sees what appears to be low resistance path to ground through the condenser. The current flows into the condenser rather than attempting to flow across the points. This flow aids in the rapid collapse of the magnetic field in the primary coil. It shuts that crap down. Sorry. Question. When will the voltage in the secondary winding of a magneto installed on a normally operating engine be at its highest value? Answer. Just prior to spark plug firing. Question. When the switch is off in a battery ignition system, the primary circuit is, answer, opened. The system is in the off position, the primary circuit is open, and no primary current can flow. Question. As an aircraft engine's speed is increased, the voltage induced in the primary coil of the magneto, answer, increases. Note, the greater the engine speed, the faster the magneto turns, and the faster the lines of flux are cut. Question. When internally timing a magneto, the breaker points begin to open when? Answer. The magnetic poles are a few degrees beyond the neutral position. They're hammering this concept into your mind, okay? The E gap. Question. The purpose of a safety gap in a magneto is to what? Answer. Protect the high voltage winding from damage. Protect the high voltage windings from damage. Question. A defective primary capacitor in a magneto is indicated by, answer, burned and pitted breaker points. Defective means it's burned and has pitted breaker points. Question. How many secondary coils are required in a low tension ignition system on a 18-cylinder engine? Answer. 36. For each one, you need a second one. 9, 18, 27, 36. So you double 18. Question. A magneto ignition switch is connected in which pattern? Answer. In parallel to the breaker points. In parallel. Question. The spark is produced in a magneto ignition system when the breaker points are what? Answer. Beginning to open. Again, the trick is in the wording here. Beginning to open. Question. Shielding is used on spark plug and ignition wires to, answer, prevent interference with radio reception. Question. What is the purpose of using an impulse coupling with a magneto? Answer. To produce a momentarily high rotational speed of the magneto. Note, as soon as the engine starts, the coupling disengages, allowing the magneto to fire at its normal advanced position. Here we go. Question. The purpose of staggered ignition is to compensate for, answer, diluted fuel-air mixture around the exhaust valve. Question. Aircraft magneto housings are usually ventilated in order to answer, provide cooling and remove corrosive gases produced by normal arcing. Question. Failure of an engine to cease firing after tuning the magneto switch off is an indication of answer. An open P lead, Papa lead to ground. An open P lead to ground. Question. Alignment of the marks provided for internal timing of a magneto indicates that the answer magneto is in E-gap position. Question. When using a timing light to time a magneto to an aircraft engine, the magneto switch should be placed in the answer both position, BOTH, both position. Question. What is the difference between a low tension and high tension engine ignition system? Answer. A low tension system uses a transformer coil near the spark plug to boost voltage, while the high tension system voltage is constant from the magneto to the spark plugs. So there's no middle person. Question. What test instrument could be used to test an ignition harness for suspected leakage? Answer. A high tension lead tester. This is a trick question. A high tension lead tester. That's what you use to test an ignition harness for leakage. Question. The amount of voltage generated in any magneto secondary coil is determined by the number of windings and by the answer rate of collapse of the magnetic field around the primary coil. Question. Magneto breaker points must be timed to open when answer when the greatest magnetic field stress exists in the magnetic circuit. Question. In reference to a shower of sparks ignition system, which is true? Statement number 1. The retard breaker points are designed to keep the affected ignition system operating if the advanced breaker points should fail during normal engine operation after start. Statement number 2. The timed opening of the retard breaker points is designed to prevent engine kickback during start. Answer. Statement number 1 is not true. Statement number 2 is true.